First of all, you're welcome. I was listening to you, and I'd probably go a small bit different than the questions that was asked. There's a lot of experience. I was listening to all the answers, and there's a lot of knowledge about the whole dairy industry. In your view, first of all, do you accept the model that's being used?
On water quality or in general?
Yeah, do you accept the, are you buying into the modelling that's being used of X amount of cattle in a radius of whatever mileage or whatever kilometres, plus there's X amount of sewage treatment plants and there's X amount of tillage and there's X amount of this, that and the other. Do you buy into that?
So, firstly, I think we accept that the EPA are the arbiters and regulators, okay? Yeah. That's the first thing from our perspective. We engage with the EPA and Teagasc, and we have scant.
No, I'm not saying, and I'm not questioning you that you agree that they're the arbiter. The question I'm asking is the modelling that's being used.
Well, there's scant evidence, limited evidence, regarding stocking rate and the derogation and water quality, and we have that in our report, Deputy, and like we do question like where did 220 come out of? Do you know where was that figure come out? And we challenged very strongly on that. Okay, we also very much challenge, and you'll see it regarding the report, that it's not just a livestock issue. We absolutely accept. And it's actually, anyone with logic would say because agriculture is 80 to 90% of the land mass, of course it is one of the big pressures on water. So we accept that. There's no evading the science, but we also want to underline, and we do feel, and it's not, forget about us, it's what the farmer feels. The farmer feels persecuted. That's what we're getting, you know, the farmer doesn't talk about price anymore. They talk about persecution regarding water quality, regarding GHGs, and price actually has only been coming to the end of it in recent times. So whatever about GHGs, they're kind of nearly exoteric, Deputy. People know about their water quality. They want to be there, and they want good water quality in their rural communities. It's very easy to access farmers on that, and the examples given by the people from the co-ops here who are working with farmers. I think ASSAP that we've been working with for the last couple of years has a 97% take-up rate from the farmers. So farmers want to embrace it, but we do try to work with EPA and try to explain that we're only one of the pressures. We're a key pressure. We acknowledge we're not trying to wash our hands of it. So and I know the EPA are going to be coming in the next couple of weeks on this, so I know you'll be questioning them.
My problem is the validation of, there's X amount of rivers done on a regular basis. There's X amount of rivers done maybe once a year, and there's a fair variance between what's happening. The other part is, I don't know, were you watching our commission meeting a few weeks back? We had the Department of Housing and Environment, or Housing and Environment, I think it was Christie, was it? Yeah. And I put it to them, the model that's being used, or the target that's being used by, say, that we have to get to at the moment, were they comfortable with that, or basically would they use that if it was them that was doing the testing? And they said they wouldn't, that it was Europe that set this bar. Have ye scientific people that's looking at this or checking this out? The fear I have, and I'll be quite honest with you, and I'm not a scientist, but the fear I have is that you have farmers doing their best right around this country. And I wonder, is this bar so high that, is it achievable? That's what I'm trying to, and bear in mind that if you look at the map of quality water and water that's in a bad state right across Europe, we don't even go into the colouring of the rest of Europe, the type of water they have, or the type of pollution that's in a lot of it. And we have over 50% of our waters are in good status, or are basically holding its own. And I'm just wondering, has anyone looked and said, is this bar achievable, what Europe has set? Because I was actually surprised with the comments from the department that they wouldn't use that model. I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
Well, is there anyone to take firstly?
Yeah, maybe Deputy Fitzmaurice, something that comes to my mind is, does the farmer have a tool today to be able to affect change positively on their farm, right? In terms of the measurements here, and I'll just refer you to action number 3, or point number 3 in terms of our own submission. We're saying that every farmer should be supported to develop a nutrient use score with code of practice for each sector. Okay, so basically a nutrient use score. So at farm level today, we can say every one of our farm family suppliers has a carbon footprint number. And we all know through the Teagasc 12-point plan what we can do in terms of actions we can take to affect that positively, and then by extension reduce my carbon footprint. Today at farm level, no farm, except during a monitor farm programme or an exemplar type programme, the majority of farmers don't have a nutrient use score. They don't have a baseline in terms of something positively that they can start from, a nutrient use score or an end surplus figure that they have for their farm, upon which then they can act upon and take the necessary actions. Because when we look at the data points, we're told you get that nutrient score figure, you reduce it by a third, you considerably reduce the end losses through the urine patches out in the field, and then you have direct link with water quality. So I'd argue today farmers having the tools they need, when we're talking about models and tools and everything else, you know, we don't have the basic tool required to positively impact water quality, and that's a big gap. Now, it's a big gap through ourselves in Dairy Industry Ireland. We're positively engaged with ICBF, with Teagasc and with Bord Bia to get that in place, and I think we're working towards possibly July, having such a figure and driving it through the ICBF report and what goes with that. But this is a fundamental, you know, that should be here. And in the year 2024, we're pulling the sector together to make it happen. Because if we look at the significant changes, I can only speak for Tirlawn, where we've seen a 6.3% reduction in carbon footprint since 2018. Imagine the kind of improvements we'll be able to record and report on when we give farmers the basic tool to be able to affect change positively. So that's a fundamental thing that I think, you know, could positively come out in terms of recommendation. Is something we'd be very supportive of. The other point coming to my mind really around, you know, the good status. I mean, it is worth remembering a point that Conor told us here at the very beginning. We're in the top 3 when it comes to water quality at European level, and that's not to be heard that's not a reason for inaction. Of course, there's markers and strong indicators of challenge. And that's why we have projects like Slaney, we have Mulcair, and we have so many right across the country that we as co-ops are positively stepping in beside, because we know change is required. But if the models that are being used, you know, questions that look, are the models peer reviewed? You know, if they are, you know, good, have they been independently published? Because I know we're constantly challenged here if a report comes out, which, look, you would say that, right? And because of that, you know, that's why the work that DII are leading around the economic and the social and economic impact of a potential move and change in the derogation, it's being prepared by EY, and it's being commissioned and to be completed by EY, because the output of that has to be independent and strong enough that allows us then go and say, when a decision is being made, in the case of Tirlawn, you know, think about the 19,200 jobs, you know, that Tirlawn are supporting, and think about the 5.5 billion economic activity, in addition to all the environmental activities happening through ESTAS, through the Slaney, through ASIP, and through everything else we're all driving on, and they need to look at that in around. So give us a basic tool to affect change positively.
I presume you're all in support of anaerobic digesters, and if we could ever get it down the road that it would be economically viable to pellet the likes of the digestate, would you be?
Yes, in general, but we have to be careful. Like I made this point, Deputy, you're listening in, that like this is nutrients in terms of what is coming there, and like that needs to get back into the soil. And like if you put these nutrients into AD, you're losing P and K, which are absolutely vital for soil health. You also run the risk of needing extra chemical in, which is the opposite direction. So yes, of course, we're looking, like even selfishly as the industry, we're looking to decarbonise as industry, and we're high thermal load from a dairy industry perspective, and like we have a huge challenge ourselves to get down, so because we have to hit our targets to be credible to our farmers and to turn around to ask them. So selfishly, we would love a biomethane industry based on slurry, but we need that circular economy nutrients for our land. So we don't want to be caught in a catch-22. Sean, do you want to maybe come in on that?
I think we just need to be careful that that doesn't distract from the conversation or the action that needs to happen around slurry storage on each individual farm, because each individual farm is unique in terms of soil type and, you know, in terms of the system they run in terms of milking into the winter, or, you know, so each farm is unique. So and each farm then has a unique, I suppose, unique risks in terms of impacting water quality. So I think we need to be careful that we don't distract there, and I think we need to be careful also, you know, in terms of the feed stocks that need to be generated for the AD. You know, if it's grass that's going into the AD, it has to be very high quality. There's going to be nutrients required to generate that feedstock, and, you know, in one hand, I suppose we're saying there's more opportunity to improve nutrient management on farm. So I think we need to get a lot better in terms of nutrient management already before we expand our land area in terms of or expand in terms of more nutrients to produce feedstocks for AD. I suppose the other thing I want to comment on is, you know, if we, in terms of the actions, I suppose, in terms of the pool of money that's available to farmers, if we reflect on the ASSA programme and, you know, the engagement we had with farmers and the opportunities that were identified in terms of actions that need to be taken on farm to minimise the risk of a negative impact on water quality. You know, the new EIP pool of money, 50 million, you know, we're piloting it in our catchment area with a group of farmers. We've got a real encouraging level of engagement, but I think the process needs to be streamlined as quickly as possible. We need to make sure that this money moves into these farmers' hands so it can be spent wisely and appropriately under the guidance of our water quality specialist teams across the country. So I think we need to make that, you know, in terms of actions that we know can have a real impact relatively quickly. I think we need to make sure that happens.
One final question. Everyone is looking at nitrogen, or, you know, the nitrogen part of it. There's a huge swath of our country in trouble with the phosphorus part of it. The reality is, and I intend to keep following it as long as I can, a huge amount of sewage treatment plants are not functioning in this country. And there's a lot of towns, no fault to the people living in the towns, that haven't the treatment plants that they deserve or require. What's your thoughts on the phosphorus part of it? Because I think a lot of farmers don't even understand that if they hadn't a nutrient management plan done, or side samples taken, and they could be put into the default position, and a bag 80 and 612 or something could put you in bother, especially in some of the schemes. I know that you're looking at the water quality, and you named the Slaney and you named a lot of the places where basically they would be talking about nitrogen problems. Are you doing the same on the phosphorus side of it?
Yeah, so
In other parts of the country that...
I might just open very quickly and then maybe go to Sean and Billy or whoever the experts. In the water EIP for that it's 50 million farmers' pockets and then 10 million for, so the key about the water EIP in terms of what we're doing, the actions are nearly all phosphorus based. So we hope that that will help address, so there's going to be rainwater management plans in terms of what you're talking about. So a farmer will see where the phosphorus flows and be paid for that in terms of their nutrient scores and things like that. So nitrogen is more difficult to deal with than actual phosphorus that we're finding when we're dealing with our advisors in Teagasc and Lawpro. They feel that there's solutions for phosphorus once the education and money is put in. And a farmer, you know, once they get the advice, it's not just left there, that they're paid for to take the actions in terms of bunding, in terms of riparian margins. So
the only thing, if you look at the map of Ireland at the moment, have a look at this famous map that's landed now, and bear a small little bit the rest of the country. Well, I come from an area that there isn't dairy cows, that there's the most pristine river in Ireland is in it. And that map has gone over it as it's a black spot. Do you understand?
Because of phosphorus. Yeah.
Now, because of phosphorus. So I think it's very unjust the way they're doing things, but you think that phosphorus can be solved relatively simply, do you?
Maybe Billy or Sean.
As Conor said there, nitrogen, it flows easily through the soil. With phosphorus, it's primarily overland flow.
Right.
So if you can stop overland flow, silt, or going into the river, that'll start your phosphorus. So it is more visible. So you can put in silt traps and so on and so forth. So as Conor stated there, the EIP project is highly utilised for phosphorus and solving phosphorus. But I want to get back to a point in relation to data. Farmers, you need data to be able to exact change. Like carbon footprint, everyone has a carbon footprint. Every farmer has a carbon footprint today. So there's a MAC curve developed how we can move with the science, implement the science, trust the science, and reduce the carbon footprint. Everyone has a target for 2030. Dairy Gold has a target for 0.7 kg of CO2.
But is it a problem for ye and for all of those? I think it's for farmers, but when you're looking at the data is changing.
Yes, but
there's more research done now that tells us one time. I think that the chairman, in fairness to him, we were going through, the export to slurry. Well, the export to slurry, the figures was at 5 one-time share, and then it came to, now automatically overnight, it came mysteriously to 2 point something. We got more figures, accurate figures that would be a bit higher than that, to be in the 3s, so obviously, if there isn't as much excrement out of an animal, obviously the methane isn't as much, and the figures are changing so much with research that we have done, because unfortunately the EPA were just taking figures from other countries that had their research done. Maybe it was indoor systems, I don't know, but this has caused real effect on our farmers from inaccurate figures, in my opinion. And we need, if you're building a house, you need a foundation right. You can't have doubt. And unfortunately at the moment, in my opinion, be it on the carbon budgets or all of that, like, there's nothing at all about sequestering. It's all about what goes up. And we need to be fair. Like, what galls me at the moment is the kicking every day. Like, I was on the telly last night and we're debating it. And we're debating, and they were saying, who's giving out? Well, like, look at the media every day. Even the farm media. There's always someone writing something that's telling you some story about a farmer or what they're doing wrong or what's going wrong. Or some bad news. Then I never see a good story about it. And like, a lot of these people need to realise that we produce probably the best food in the world, and we're a grass-based system, and that we, the fear I have is that you keep welching at someone and they'll get sick of it, because people don't realise that in a lot of places where they don't know what a turnip is or a head of cabbage, or some of them don't even know where the egg came out of, that someday they might see a bit of a shortage and they might be glad of the farmer.
Yeah, like it's important to give farmers data so they establish a baseline. And as Thomas said earlier, the nutrient surplus or nutrient score, that'll determine where the baseline is at farm level. Then the farmer can take action. Without measurement, you cannot take any action. So you run your finger in the air. So it's important that the farmer has information. Like the carbon footprint to the journey then you travel on. You have 5 or 6 key simple actions at farm level to be able to reduce that, the nutrient. And it's all about nutrient load.
So you are doing work on the phosphorus in the areas. You're doing it, say it's not all concentrated on 2 or 3 areas. You have more than that. Is that correct?
It's national.
Good. That's good to hear. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Again, thanks very much for your comprehensive answers today.